We have been engaged for 2 years. We don't live together because I believe in getting married before moving in. That's just how I like it. Don't come for me or comment on this part. Fiancé still lives with parents, but he just bought himself a mobile home closer to his job that he's slowly moving into. His new house is 12 miles further away from mine, but he wanted to be closer to work, so I get it. Now we're about an hour away from each other. His drive to work was originally 35 minutes. Now it's about 20 or a little less. My fiancé, 2.5 years ago, was into snakes and lizards. He convinced me to get myself a crested gecko, and he had the whole setup for him. I said sure, why not, because I love animals, and he offered to keep the whole setup at his parents' house, where he currently still lives for now, since he still has a snake. My house has bad insulation, built in the 70s, so winter would probably kill the lizard as it gets to 45°F in my room, which is in the basement. I live with my mom. Even with the heating lamp on the lizard, it would still be cold in the room. All in all, he was fine with it and said he would take care of my lizard when I wasn't there. A few weeks went by, and I saw that when I came over, every 4 or 5 days due to work, the food would be dry, crusted over, and moldy. His snake also wasn't getting fed for about 2 months. Asked him why he hasn't gotten around to feeding either of the pets. He had no response other than, "I have no time." He plays Xbox and watches YouTube videos. He has time. He also naps for 3 hours after work every day. He has time. This goes on for months. I tell him that he said he'd change my gecko's food, and it doesn't even have to be every day. Every other day would work. We feed him paste that stays good for 2 days. Just as long as he has fresh water and fresh food as often as you can. Disclaimer, every time I come over, I feed my gecko and change everything and mist his tank multiple times a day before I leave. I get it all done. Time goes by, and his snake is not getting the right amount of food. That's when I tell him one day that we're going to the pet store. We are buying it a rat and feeding the snake. So we do. But only because I had to take control and tell him that's what we're doing. My gecko still isn't getting fresh food or water at this point. I start looking around for someone else to take the gecko because my house just isn't a suitable environment, plus the power shuts off frequently from storms and tornadoes. His house has a generator. No one can take the gecko. I ended up convincing my coworker, who had a snake, to please take his snake. She agreed, and we gave her the whole setup. Only because I found it a new home. Now, he only has to worry about the gecko. Still, after 2 years of talking to him about feeding my gecko, and myself trying to find someone who even wants a gecko, few and far between, I'm finding myself to be disgusted by him. Why isn't he taking care of the animals that he thought would be a good idea and offer to care for? I think it says a lot about a person on how they treat an animal. Now, every time that I ask him, he just goes quiet and says, "Isn't it your lizard?" Then I say that he offered to help me out because he had the whole setup. Then he says he has no time, but it takes 6 minutes total to put together a new paste and change the water dish. Trust me, he has time. He goes on to tell me that the other lizards he used to have were burned under a heat lamp and their eyeballs scarred over and fell out of their head while they were still alive, and instead of taking them to an exotic vet, he set them free in his backyard. We live in the Midwest USA, not Mexico, so that they can have one last chance at life. In other words, get eaten by birds. I don't really feel affectionate towards my fiancé anymore because of his negligence, and we have had fights over the fact that I don't really kiss or hug him as often anymore. I just feel plain disrespected that I've had to talk to him for 2 years to take care of this poor lizard. That was his idea, that he said he would take care of, and he just doesn't ever act on it after our conversations. For 2 years. We have had other problems recently too, and I just don't know if I want to have children with this guy, and I feel like he's secretly a sociopath or something. He doesn't feel empathy for or take care of animals. So I don't want to have his kids. Today, I see that the gecko's food is moldy. I go over to him, pissed because it's been a conversation for 2 years, and I say, "Help me understand this. What is it with you, where you aren't listening to me and ignoring the gecko that relies on you for food?" His response is, "I don't know." I said I'll be waiting for an answer other than a sorry-ass excuse. He then says, "Because I don't care enough." I asked, "Is that the truth?" And he said, "I don't know." He says the same, "I don't care enough." I was honestly kind of taken aback by this statement and disgusted. It's not just about the lizard. It's the principle of taking responsibility for something you volunteered for, being mature, dedicating your time appropriately, doing what you're asked if I show you that I'm concerned, etc. Ultimately, it's also about how you treat beings that are smaller than you and that rely solely on you. So, Ada for thinking about just calling it quits?